Okay. See if this is working. There we go. Two Salty Clowns. Good evening. How are you? How's things? It might take a while. If you're waiting on us to have a system to deliver pizza, it could take quite a significant amount of time. I was just seeing if I could figure out how to give Junicus access to certain rights on this repository. But I suppose it works that I can review them. So I had the weirdest. So in between streams, I've had 3 new followers. Half Pint, LYB player, and AJ Mally. Oh, yeah, AJMALY. And LYB player, who I don't know who that is, gave me their Prime sub while I wasn't streaming, which I greatly appreciate. Sorry, I'm just messaging instructions on after dinner. Yeah. I can't say that's happened before. Someone's given me their Prime sub while I've not been streaming on a name I have and followed me at the same time. So whoever that person is, if they come in this evening, I will thank them again. But if not, it is recorded. Thank you. I appreciate the Prime sub. Evening, Junicus. How are you? Kim, thank you. Good evening. How's things? Thank you very much for the sub. I'm relaying instructions for after dinner cleanup. Things is good. Cool. Glad to hear it. Okay. Junicus, you've been very busy. I've got a lot to digest here. So, I streamed a lot over the weekend. We got developers.stream in a pretty good place. I was pretty happy that we got the ability to review streamers and reject or accept them. That was functional. So we got administrative rights in there. It was a good weekend for progress there. Did you just sub and it didn't tell me that? Or did you just... Or did you use the points? Showing the subscriber badge. Does it do that when you use channel points to get the emotes? What? Thank you very much for the Prime sub. It's telling me 13 number of subs. But it didn't register in the activity feed. Thank you. Thank you to Solid Class. I appreciate that. Wow. Yeah, it's been crazy. I've actually, yeah, Twitch. But it did it with Kim straight away, and then it didn't bother with you. That's annoying. Twitch. I got a comment on one of the YouTube videos saying how much they like the content, and I think AJMALY maybe the YouTube subscriber that joined, and it was good to have the comment there. So I'm getting more and more views on these videos going up to YouTube, which is nice. Although the biggest video I've got up there right now has 1,200 views, right? And it's a 3-hour 40-minute video because it's a dump of the stream, and the average view time is 3 minutes 40 seconds, or less than 3 minutes 40 seconds, and there's 2 dislikes. But no one has watched it 100%. I don't get YouTube. So anyway, pizza as a service. Yeah, yeah. YouTube is well, I've been putting the streams up there. Editing these streams down is way too much work. So I know that comes with the risk of, people completely ignoring the content, but it means that I don't have to try and pick out the parts that are worthy of video. So these pizza as a service streams definitely just get dumped up there, and I think people are taken to them. Joy. So anyway, this evening we're going to focus on. We're going to start with focusing on a little bit. Well, yes, I mean with the it won't be long, right? I can hire the editor. Hopefully next week we'll see a difference. I'm hoping to have some changes to the stream next week. Oh, there you go. We just got told. Prime card up. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the Prime sub. So yeah, there's some differences coming next week to the stream. Dota had asked that we kind of spend a little bit of time with some stuff that could be easily worked on in this project. So for those of you who have not been here while we've been doing this project, this is Pizza as a Service. Basically, it's a exploration as we go of a distributed system. If you go to this URL, you'll see this chart better. And kind of we've worked on this for several weeks now, and we're kind of building up this. No, that don't work. Let's bring up the chart. Pizza Emporium, or Pizza as a Service system. And what we're doing is we're kind of taking all the parts and building them out and making the the pieces communicate via mass transit or via Kafka. We're analyzing what it would mean to really do this, looking at some of the challenges we face, doing this sort of system, and all the things we can do when we distribute a system in such a way. But how we analyze the problem, how we fix, how we come up with solutions, and just generally have fun doing this. The ultimate idea is that this is not something that I want to complete on stream. This is something that we're kind of going to do for a little while. And it gives a chance for other people to pick up a piece and see if they can check out the code and build it and add. Maybe they want to add a part of the system in, or they want to see how it would interact and experiment. But overall, this is not aimed at being a complete system. It is aimed at being a tinkering system. It will and has dipped into DDD, domain-driven design at times. It will do that because of the way we're analyzing it. I'm not great at charting, as may be apparent, being that this is a mind map that I'm now using as a kind of guideline as to how to build this out. So yeah. So this is Tuesday streams. So what I was going to do then is bring up the... So if you check out the code, open in terminal. I'm getting used to doing this now. The Docker Compose infra will get the pieces started up for you. So this will start up Mongo. It will start up Kafka. It will start up the Kafka monitoring tools, and it will start up RabbitMQ for mass transit to use for communication. If there's any questions, if there's any desire to go into any of these pieces, let me know. Started adding a terms markdown file, so to kind of explain when we're using something, so we're consistent in how we refer to things. A menu so far is the most complex thing we have because of how we break it down. And the README should get you started. So Docker Compose -F, because it's not a standard Docker Compose file. Up -D. Where? Oh, because I'm doing that. That might work. So last stream we had some issues with switching over Docker to use WSL2. I got to brush up on my stories apparently because I applied to Facebook and AWS. Nice. Good evening, Dota, and good luck. So we'll just run this up, and then we'll... Nice. Rock stars. Is that the reading group you part of? Okay. So now this is set to be multi-start solution. So we start up the customer service, the website, the menu website, and the loyalty system. So when we run this up, this should all things working as intended. So we have the main website where we can register right? We have the menu website, and these two services. So if we register, we can see John Smith appears in the customer service, and then shortly after it appears in the loyalty service. Go to the menu system, there's nothing there. We go to the menu website and create the lunch menu, right? Now refresh here. Which piece are we missing? Missing a piece. We're missing a piece, I believe. Yeah, we're missing this part. Hey, Mr. Anhorn, how are you? So we're missing the part that consumes the menu service, and there we go. There's the lunch menu. Just to prove that that's the piece missing. We can have the dinner menu. We have the dinner menu right there. So these are all different components of the system working together, but they live in many areas. So the customer service lives over here. The website is up here. The menu service is over here. And when we register an account, we send a command, and the customer service picks that up, does what it needs to do. Cool. We're going to play. All good. And then that publishes an event that the account was registered. No worries, Doctor. And other systems pick it up. So that nice. The marketing system picks it up, and the website picks it back up again, and will ultimately do something there with that. So what we kind of need, what would be nice to do would be able to give the chance for other people to start working with some of this stuff, and also start to progress it, and so we can visualize it better. So we know the menu system needs more work to be able to do the actual menu, because right now it's hard coded. What is publishing here is all hard coded. We need to be able to build this system out in here, so we can save a menu, and there are obviously other parts that we can kind of work on with some low-hanging fruit that would be useful. So I'm going to go back to the issues. You've had comments on some things. Not at all. When we create a category, we should require to be at least one menu. Should we also require to have at least one item? We would create the main fields, and later we can say, I want to link this side by. You know, I didn't get any email on this. I got a burst of emails today. Huh. So I haven't been ignoring these for stream. Because, I mean, you saw me reply to some. Okay. So I'm going to cover these bottom three first. These look like they are definitions of commands, which we'll kind of go into. So let's cover this one first. Let's talk about this one first. So I deliberately put IE, what do you want to see? So if we intend, right, to manage the menu through one system, breaking out an API always serves to keep us agnostic of UI, which if we break things out into command query handlers is easily achievable later. So again, this project is not meant to be the complete answer for everybody as to how you would do this. It's to be, let's explore this, let's tinker with this, let's build this out and see what it does. So if we want to build an API around the menu system, which will obviously divert us in a different direction, because then we have potential for UIs around the menu system, then yes, an API is necessary. If we want other systems, if we know there are other systems to build that would interact with the menu system, like producing the menu, building out that menu, then yes, we would probably create an API. We can do it if you want to. If we break things out into the handlers and the commands properly and start to build out the structure, as you mentioned, then that API isn't too difficult later on, because we can do more with that API. We can we could build it as required rather than just building it for the sake of building it. And obviously, if we build it as an API now, we've got to consider what the UI looks like. We've got to build that separate. We've got to use whatever to interact with the API, and it makes life a little bit difficult. No worries, Doctor. We're just going to go over the things that Junicus has added, and we're going to see if we can put some refinement on to be stories, and then we'll continue on. So yes, we could make it an API. If you'd like to see us make that an API, it was not easy. Well, Mark Miller is yeah. He's an experienced dude, so yeah. So when I asked, I forgot all about Kafka and how he published the menu that way. So I kept thinking on traditional REST APIs. Now the question was more to do a separate project for that. Right. Yeah. So we can have a service at its front end, right? Sorry, I'm just trying to put my thoughts in order before I actually say something, because I don't want to necessarily misrepresent what I'm trying to describe. Realistically, what I'm saying here is we don't necessarily need an API right now, because the menu system itself. So if we technologies, if we do this, thoughts. If we consider this is going to be a rather primitive drawing. 50 repositories. If we do so, in my experience, there's I'm just going to put 3 that we've kind of touched on right now, right? Right. So there's 2 sides to our system so far, right? There's the very public side, and there's the private side. And even this public component, parts of it might live somewhere on this side of this wall, right? When people say, I want an API around something, what they're thinking there is, well, what if? what if we need this? What if we need that down the line, right? What if we want to give someone else access to the menu? What if we want to feed the menu in from somewhere else? And it's kind of preparation for the future you don't know, right? The reality is we don't know necessarily. Well, we may know. We don't know that this needs interactions from anywhere else. We don't know that we're going to have multiple sources of input. So the menu system itself is the single source of truth for menus, right? That's that's a guarantee thing. That's the thing we need to guarantee. We cannot have multiple things creating menus into the system. That's not what we want to, what we want to do. So the way you achieve that is you present an API if multiple things can input. And now this system alone is independently responsible for verifying users are who they say they are, right? In this case, it may be a little excessive to try and put an API around this because we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on this piece just to get that achieved. Because we're going to still need a UI. We're still going to need it to produce data so that other parts of the system can kind of function. There's nothing saying in the future we can't break out an API from this as long as it's in here and uses all the same handles and commands that presents a more public interface to this system that this still uses the handles and commands for to do what it does. And I'm not a big fan of creating an API to present, and this may be personal, but I've never seen it work successfully. There's never a reason why you would create an API for a UI and a public-facing interface to your system, right? I mean, if we want to go down that path, then we can go down that path. Because again, this is the sake of exploration. This is not the let's get it 100% correct, right? So yeah, we could create an API project separate to it, but ultimately, only one handler produces the message. Only one handler updates the category. Only one handler does this or does that, because you don't want multiple things doing things, and you don't want different things publishing data. Okay, so let's stop that running. So I think the goal for tonight's stream, we don't have to go that way. We're going to do it if we eventually need it. The commands as they stand right now are what them are. Yes, we need to organize. Yeah, yeah, we do need to organize. Yeah, yeah, because like you said, you weren't considering Kafka. You were thinking you were approaching it from a more traditional sense, and the reality is, it's a different way of thinking, right? Getting your head around splitting the system up into multiple parts is actually quite a difficult piece. So let's look at what else? I'm going to create categories and associate items. Store the menu when creating a menu management system. Okay, so right now what we're doing is we're turning around and publishing, right? We're not actually doing very much, so we do need to store it. I'm thinking in SQL Server there are relations in the data, but on the other hand, it's also a document, so MongoDB will also be a good fit. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about what's the use cases of this data. How do we want? So if we think about this just in terms of menu, not about the wider system, again, what Kafka publishes does not need to be what we store or how we store it, right? We can have that data stored in whatever format we want. We just say, okay, we're going to publish it in this format or produce it in this format. When creating and managing menus, we could have a state published versus unpublished to help distinguish menus that are valid and visible versus menus that are being worked on. Yes. It's bugging me now. So my emails. No, I'm not getting any notifications on the repository. As it is right now, a relational DB will work the entities that we have are not complex. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe this is what we can work on this evening, getting this part working to store. And if there's parts that you would like to work on, then what I'd like to do is spend the time use a timing stream to agree on what that should be and kind of treat it as a story session as such, rather than being a coding session if need be. Because it'd be nice to empower others to go off and do stuff. And like I said to Dota, right? If we can pick some low hanging fruit, you can go and have a tinker with this. You can get to working with it, and we can start to share this a little bit. Yeah, yeah. We're not making this. We're deliberately not making this too complex, right? So many value objects. Yeah. So what we need to do is kind of break down. Let's break down these as cards, and we can figure out where these live in terms of the behavior that we're representing in the cards. Gotcha. Yeah, that's actually nice. I'm going to tinker with that at some point. So what else haven't I covered? Store menu. This is this one. We probably should do this. We hardcode the menu as a software, but now we want to be able to produce an actual menu. As a creator, should be able to configure the items and categories along with the prices. Yeah, we'll be looking at that. Actually, Kim, if you're still in the chat, have you heard of? Is it LightDB? Was it? Yeah, LightDB. Enterprise FizzBuzz GitHub repo. Huh. Okay. When we create a category, should we require it to be at least in one menu? Should we also require it to have at least one item? Or do we create the main fields and later we can say I want to link this set of entities for category to item or menu to category? I'm currently leading time with the requirements, even if it creates some interesting flows, thoughts. You mean, so we create a category, you have to have an item. versus you can create categories independent and never put items in there. Look at the create menu command. Command that creates a menu in the published state. A menu should require the name of the menu to be created in the state. Yeah, I do think we need to represent state. We do need a runs validation very well. Should have a name, at least one category in the right. So you should be able to. So similar to actually what we're doing. Right. Now, what is valid state? Valid is one category, one item. So if we think about menu as an in progress document, we have the menu, we add a category, we don't add an item, we hit save, we come back, we say, okay, well, resume working on that. We add an item. If we force adding an item, then you've got to add an item. If you've got the categories but you don't know the items, you could still go and add the categories, you just can't publish the menu. You should always be able to save it, I think. You just can't publish it until it's in a valid state. And if a category does not have an item, we can validate that at the UI level. So you can't have a menu with empty categories. You can only have if a category exists, an item has to exist for a menu, for a category, and at least one category has to exist for a menu. Right. Oh dear. I have an itchy nose again. I don't know why. I think it's just talking so much. Right, and I think I kind of understood the concept of you don't necessarily publish a menu until you're ready. Right? When we publish menu, when menu goes to Kafka, that is, here's the menu. You can use this. So when we hit save on that menu screen, it isn't saving the menu. It isn't publishing the menu. It is just storing it in storage. I think that's what we kind of need to work on this evening. So that is kind of large. That is that is a good chunk of work. So one thing we need to disconnect is we need to disconnect our way of thinking about the menu and how it's stored in the menu system from how we might represent it. Like if SQL Server is the better if SQL Server is the better option here, then we use SQL Server, right? That's the goal. And I think you're right. SQL Server is the good choice for the data for the menu. Pardon me. I was testing our competition for dinner and doing order out. Okay. So what else do we have going? So we're very focused on the menu because the menu is the core of what we need to proceed, right? There's two components: registering an account. Yeah, I had burger, but yeah, um, garlic fingers and dye bites. I don't know. I've got to start doing a little bit of better healthy eating. Uh, oh man, I'm tomorrow is my last day in the office until January next year. I'm working, but no in office time now. They've actually changed the schedule up. Yeah, yeah. I mean, life gets in the way. You can best intentions and all, but it focuses you from time to time. So yeah, okay. There are parts we could be interested in, like what does the UI for the customer look like? What kind of flow will they have? Do they register first or at the end? Do they need to search for locations close by? What is a bird's eye view of a layout? And that is just, oh yeah, we can go infinitely deep on any single piece of this system, right? Um, and as fascinated as I am by the concept, um, I think that would be like the mobile project, like other projects before it. It will become boring to the stream, unfortunately. So my goal is to get this to a point where you can take this and play with this, and if you want to demonstrate a feature, we can kind of get the context of it, and we all know what we're talking about. I think certain things will help, like the user logging in as a user, ordering an item. If we can get those pieces working, having the order system pick up the order, figuring out how to pretend to progress a pizza order through, rejecting orders, etc. Those things would be good pieces to pull off and work on. So I'm looking at this now and thinking, is there pieces that can be worked on independently that would be meaty enough to not just be menial tasks, but would be able to be worked on independently? And I'm a little concerned because what I want to do is tag certain things as in a way that says, "Yep, you can pick this up and work at it if you want to." The big risk there is if we set something aside as you can work on it if you want to, then we end up with merge conflicts. So we've got to think very carefully about how we pick out those pieces. But we can't work on that part until we have the ability to do the items, which means we need to, yeah. Although you could technically work on that, yeah. That would be a thing. Caching is, yeah. Um, Caching is something that I'm very much considering right this second, for other stuff as well. It's something that I've not actually had the need to play a lot with because I've never had to deal with that much data. But Redis cache, yeah, We're going to touch on a lot of things in this. Nothing's jumping out though, as we kind of need to get over this part where we're able to enrich the data. That's what I'm looking at right this second. Huh? I honestly don't know. We got to kind of see where this goes, right? We got to, if we keep it fluid and we keep it a little bit more dynamic as to what we do. I know that is not exactly planning, but that allows us to change up what we're doing and add pieces in on a whim, and kind of talk about how it fits and talk about the design. And I want to be able to do that because I think it's really important to understand why those things happen. Because I bet we've all dealt with weak requirements or changing requirements, and this will indicate why. If nothing else, the planning is necessary. Well, we can do more many stuff if you want, get a few of the commands in place. I think that is a good path to get us more pieces to tinker with. I'm looking at it and thinking, well, if we say, okay, go off and if you want stories that you could do, selecting items from the menu. Well, with the menu the way it is right now, that's pretty tough. Okay. You want me to do that on stream, or you want to do that part? Do you want me to build out the relevant cards and you can work on that, or do you want to do it on stream together? So the one thing I do want to do there is so we're going to need a SQL Server instance. We are going to use SQL Server regardless. A result wrapper. No, I'm good with you working on pieces on your own. That's perfectly fine. Let's get the relevant story in there so we can set expectations then. Like I said, that's exactly what I want to do with the stream. I don't want to make this, hey, sit watching me code. I want to make this interactive. I just don't want to. I don't want the expectations to, because then we can review it on stream. So let me add SQL Server into this Docker Compose though. So let's do. So on image is going to be No, do I need that? Claiming drops in a channel where it's in sub mode only. Okay. Okay, so let's. So that's the latest. So is that the image name? And then latest. Yeah, 2019 latest. And then I want Docker run. So container name. It's going to be SQL Server. And then I keep putting commas there. Environment. And then I want SA password. Is pizza as service. There you go. SA password. Accept. EULA. And then ports. $14.33. So why is that done that way? And this is done this way. Ancient Coder, good evening. How are you? Nice. Okay. Let me see if that runs. I don't want that on 14.33. I want that on. I don't want that on a default SQL port. 14.34. I know that's a bit of a pain when communicating with SQL Server, but let's see. Oh, I didn't like the password. Default into a blank string. Oh. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just check to see if SQL Server works fine as part of the Docker infrastructure. Then we are gonna. I'm answering your question before you asked it. So then we're going to look at the story that. So Junikus wants to take the menu system component. We're going to look at that piece and how we're going to build out the relevant card to represent that, so that we can set the expectations on what that will achieve. We'll then take a look at other things, some other pieces that maybe we can make easier stories out of, and give Dota a chance as well to pick up some stories. Obviously, Dota, you don't have the .NET experience that someone like Junikus has, so I don't want to make that a big ask, and I don't want to put any sort of pressure on there. So you can take it if you want to, and you can. You can avoid it if you don't want to. Okay. Once the pattern's set, and the design's there, I don't want. I'm worried. Just to be quite honest, I'm worried about presenting this as, hey, you can go pick this up now, and then a pull request coming in and me going, no. It needs to do this, and this, and I don't want to necessarily do that on stream because I think it's mean. So I want to balance how we do that. Well, but the idea of this is to be community driven, right, and not to be. So I want to make sure the expectations are there. Right. But if I do those things on stream as well, obviously that comes with its own challenges, as we've witnessed in the past with pull requests, right? Okay. How much of that did that work? Did it work? Do we have a SQL server? No. Oh no, we do. We do have a SQL server. SQL Management Studio. So, this is going to be difficult, isn't it? Localhost 1434. That's it. I don't think that's working right. Yeah, I think that's what we've got to figure out. What is a good story? What items do we need in there? How are we going to tag them so you know what is able to be picked up? I think I tried that. Yeah, I did just try that. And it was complaining about it. So let me just let's try that. I probably wanted to rebuild that, didn't I? Well, I'll try comma. Let me dash up. What is it? It's build. dash dash build dash D. Is it not build? If I change the Docker Compose file, how do I get it to rebuild the images? Because that started up automatically, and I'm not sure that's what it should have done. So that should be 127.0.0.1, comma 4. That is a comma, by the way. 14.34. Target principal is incorrect. Cannot generate SSPI context, which I think is security. So bring them down. Then dash F. It's not dash dash build though. Oh, dash D. I don't like that either. How do I make it reset so it doesn't? Well, the image that it doesn't put the password in the image; it puts the password in the container, right? It runs the image. Let's change. Should be right. Because it didn't complain. I mean, the first time it complained, right? It complained that, apart from me being silly, then down, down. Yeah, so it did this. So how do I clear that out? Good point. Of course, I'm not even giving it the password, am I? Hold on. I'm not even trying to say it's. I'm giving it the wrong credentials. That's what I'm doing wrong. 127001, comma 1434 SQL Server authentication. Login fail for user SA. Hold on. That is definitely a comma, by the way. 100% a comma. Here's a strong password. What was the password that I actually put in originally? There you go. Just make sure it's not that, and it didn't take it anyway. Nope. Not right now, no. No, up about a minute. 1434. SQL Server. Yeah, I did start it. Am I being dense? 1434 to 1433. That's external to internal, right? Tool do I use that? Oh, that's that. How do I do that? I had access to the configuration. Was it in here? Am I thinking in here or no? Inspect. There you go. Thank you. SA password. Login failed. Zero 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 1434. Well, it took the password's updated in there, so I assume no. So if you're just joining us, we're trying to get SQL Server Dockerized so we can actually start using SQL Server as part of the project. And I thought I was off to a good start with how I was doing it, but I seem to have screwed something up somewhere. That's definitely right. Sadly, yes. How do I wipe it out though? I mean, if I do that, just the bot is up. If I keep playing with Docker this much, I'm going to have to make sure the bot's running on a different machine, aren't I? So I don't run the risk of screwing up the bot. Well, normally when I do it with .NET, I do docker compose dash dash build dash dash no start. But that's not relevant here. Yeah, I've done that like 4 times, haven't I? So we do that now. So docker compose dash F with the name of the file up dash D. Right. And then just to prove. Cancel. That is there. Login fail for user SA. Maybe my password's too secure. I don't think I missed anything. Nice. Yeah, there's other things I want to do with the bot as well. One day. One day. Well, OBS is not the most stable of the YML here. I suppose what this is one of the beauties of Docker. You can just take that and verify it works for you, right? Nice. What arm am I missing? What arm am I missing? Okay, hold on. Let's do this. Docker ps minus a. And let's do docker exec dash it SQL Server opt MS SQL tools bin SQL command that's s localhost that's u sa dash p argument value has to be 1. Am I not allowed underscores in the password name? In the password? It's not liking that password. No. Unexpected argument value has to be 1. Is it 2019 latest? Freshly pulled. Maybe. Let's try that. Let's find out things you're not allowed to enter in Microsoft SQL passwords. This is like 10 minutes old, the image. The container I've wiped out multiple times now. I've brought it up and down regularly. The container? Yeah. Well, still arguing in the same way. That does not like that, does it? Hold on. Let me make sure that argument's correct. Dash P. Hold on. There you go. Select star from sys. Yeah. Dot tables. Yeah. Okay. Database is working fine. So let's make sure that. So that's the password we ended up with. Localhost. Doesn't like the loopback address. There we go. Okay, so the point of doing this is so that we have a consistent SQL server that we can run migrations on, so we can start to automate some of the pieces out rather than requiring you to have a SQL server on your machine. That also helps, especially if you're not working in Windows and you're working on a Mac. This makes it possible for us to still have SQL Server. Okay, no worries. So for those of you joining us, if you're new to the stream, ask questions if you're interested in what we're doing. I'll be more than happy to answer. Well, we were young then. Don't need to tell me that today. Okay, that's developer stream. This is here. Stage file. Add it. Again, I'm doing everything in main right now because, oh no, this is on branch 3. This is branch 3 that we didn't merge. On stage. Branch 3, feature 3. I didn't do the pull request, did I? Because I am bad. Issues. What was in feature 3 was actually quite. Yeah, so let's do pull requests. New pull request. So here's the problem. I shut the stream down and I go to bed. And then I don't find the time to do the rest of the things that I say I'll do when I'm not streaming. Issue 3, yeah. Yeah. So this should be menu items are copied multiple times. Refactor appropriately. So this is last week's effort to move the menu items around to get code organization in place to make sure that we could appropriately distinguish between published models and consumed models and stored models. We added terms. We added the consumer's endpoint. Yeah, that's how I build things out. Feature /3. We added terms. Create pull request. We will get that working eventually as well, so that we can actually build the tests. We could work on the model and context and initiating it, adding it to ASP.NET and the repository, non-repository interface. I was thinking about something else when I read that, and I'm not sure. Okay, similar to how I've done the iApplication context in developers.stream. You mean the interface to the context so that we abstract it for testing. Okay, yeah. Okay. So this is the Closes 3. Is that the right way to... Oh, linked issues. That's how we do it. 3. Right. Yeah, I think we're good to go on that one. We'll be a little bit more formal. Flan. My wife loves flan. And I'm like, I can't eat it. It's a texture thing. So what did that do to that story? God. Why have I got 2 in progress? Ooh, it's gone all the way over there. I made several columns just for fun. They're not automated either. Cheesecake I'm okay with because it's firm. If it, the flan I've had has been too egg custardy, so it's too gelatinous and eggy. Even the ones that my wife has said are good, which I trust her on. But when I was a kid in primary school, the dessert, like more often than not, was egg custard, which was just a foil tin with like a baked crust in it with the egg custard in it, and it was ugh. And I've never liked it. And I have tried flan. Yeah. Oh, that's not making it sound any more appetizing. I'm not scared of trying foods. I am. There's just certain foods that I can't stomach, just from texture alone. And all the olives in the world could get tipped in the ocean for all I care. Olives are horrible. Nice. Hey, Kobe Sean. Good evening. Yeah, Twitch looks to have been tweaking a few of their features. So good. How are you? Olives are delicious. We'll agree to disagree on that one. If you mean delicious by licking the pavement would taste better, then sure. Delicious. I've tried olives multiple times. I've tried them in different places of the world. The UK, Spain, Australia. Nope. All get tipped in the ocean. My wife hates them so much she won't let me eat them. There's foods my wife would prefer I didn't eat. Marmite's a good one. I then grew up and developed a good palate for good food. I'm not feeling judged. Oh dear. Okay, so we have that merged. Let's close that down. Let's shut that down. If you don't know what Marmite is, by the way, it's worth looking up. I would bet Ancient Coder knows what Marmite is, and you may have heard of it before. The Australians also have their version, which is Vegemite, which is similar but not the same. Okay, we're not going to merge Dota's pull request in there. Yeah, I so Marmite, for those that don't know, is yeast extract, and you spread it on toast. It's very salty, and it's quite an acquired taste to the point where their catchphrase is you either love it or you hate it. There is no in between. You either go, "Ooh, that's really good," or so I introduced it to my wife's family, and I put some on the bread that we had, and gave them a piece. And they're like, "That's not bad." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. No one ever says that's not bad about Marmite." So I tasted it. They put it on rye bread, and the rye bread, to me, rye bread tastes minty. By the way, everyone thinks I'm strange for that, but rye bread tastes minty to me. And the rye bread was actually masking the flavor. It was that strong, the rye bread. So I was like, hold on, let's get a saltine or something like that, a cracker or something to put it on. And I gave it them again, and they all went, "You're horrible. Why would you eat that stuff?" But yeah, you can buy Marmite in stores. You can buy it on Amazon, but it will divide you. So yes, mushy peas are an acquired texture as well, but I like mushy peas. Um, it's not something common here. Well, not something I have to buy. Some of the stores have mushy peas. Um, Mushy peas are marrowfat peas that have been soaked and they've had a bit of sugar added to them, and they're kind of sweet. But you put them over more chia. I would bet so. I don't think she'll be in the chat this evening, but what? Canada bans? Are you serious? That link did not work, by the way. Iron Brew, Marmite, and Ovaltine. Why would you ban them things? Sorry, we've got to have a diversion. This is important stuff. Yes, that's Marmite. What? No, get off my screen. I hate this. Redeem. Derail. Uh, but I need to know this important information. No, it's just a paywall. I hate that. I'm not paying you to read your news. Nope. Seems like Canada ban a lot because that's too many vitamins. What? Oh, Kinder Surprise are illegal here. Reputation may be further in Canada has reportedly banned imports of the UK food paste. That's kind of underselling it. That's the BBC, the Independent, the other British are saying, and they're in a bit of a snit about it. If Canada is perfectly legal to require firearm and bullets, but Marmite and Iron Brew are apparently a threat to the nation's health. You can't buy Kinder Surprise here because they are a toy inside, and kids might put it in their mouth, so that you get fined if you're caught bringing a Kinder Surprise into the US. I think that's still the law. You can't have toys contained in chocolate because people might choke on them. Yeah. My mum brought us Kinder Surprise for Christmas. We're like, you can't, you can't have them. So you got it seized. This is years ago. That'd be hilarious if it was truly banned because of it contained too many vitamins. No, you can't have things that could choke a little kiddie if they decide to stick the entire egg in their mouth at once. Okay, so I'll get back on track, I promise. Okay, so let's do this. Would you? Oh. I do dislike the dashboard. It does make. Yeah, but people don't apparently understand that. So, um, so we merged the pull request that I forgot about from last week, which actually that's what I was going to do. I was going to re-pull main pull. Sorry, my favorite tool, but you are now getting relegated a little bit. Main added added SQL Server to Docker compose file. Commit changes. Push. Okay, so that should all be up there now. It should be good. So right now, if you pull this latest main branch, you will have all the changes from last week's stream. My bad. I think we'll have to learn some patterns if we're going to share this project a bit more. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up a little bit. So, okay, we create the commands crease first. So I'm going to close this one out because I think it's revisit this question at a later point because I think it'll do us more. It'll help us more to just proceed and try and get commands and queries in there, and then we can get start to build the application out. Store the menu in creating. So this one is kind of what you want to take, right, Junicus? So what we need to decide is the scope of a single piece of work, how much is too much, and how we want to break it down a little bit so that we lay down, here's what I'm expecting if I'm checking out this branch or I'm reviewing the pull request or whatever. And that we're not doing too much, because if we put too much into one particular story, we're going to end up backed up on things if people say they're going to do them but don't have the time to do them. Because as we learned with Pet Home, life happens. So we need to balance that out. So store the menu when creating in the menu management system. So I think there's a few pieces we need to do here. So let's talk about what that should look like. So I'm pointing at just the word menu. Uh, Menu flow. So what we're saying is, okay, so first define the DB schema, then define the flow. Do you want to do it that way? And do you want to make them part of the same story? Do you want me to tackle the DB schema on stream, and then you can go off and tackle the stories that we lay out as to things you can do? Bear with me 1 second, by the way. Okay. Sorry, it's getting rather warm in the room again. So, some concepts. Creating a menu. Let's go through it and see how we feel. Because this is going to be important for every piece of work we want to say somebody else can go and pick up. We do want to define what the scope of that is, and try and get to the habit of asking a question or limiting yourselves to the actual scope as you do the story, because it'll be tempting to go on and do a little bit more or tweak things, and if we do that, then people might not understand where that's done, and it could create some confusion. So, a few concepts: creating a menu, publishing a menu. Right. So what we're saying is, the act of creating the menu isn't doesn't necessarily mean it gets put to Kafka, right? It means that we are going to work with the menu in this component. So we're staying, and I don't know why. Do I just keep forgetting to save this diagram when I do these silly things? To back. Ooh, that's quite strong. Right. So when we're working within this component, creating the menu, you could create it, you could work with it, you can do all sorts of things, but until you say publish, then it stays within this component here. Publish is the act of sending it out and saying, yep, we're going to send this to Kafka. So creating a menu involves defining categories, and for that, defining items, and then publishing a menu is validating and send to Kafka, basically. And again, what we store for creating the menu doesn't necessarily need to be what we publish, right? We can store it in the state optimized for. I keep wanting to change tabs and I don't mean to. We want to store it in the state optimized for this scenario. So if SQL Server is the best option there, then that's what we go with. If MongoDB is the best option there, that's what we go with, right? Because it's how we want to store and retrieve that data. We should make it as optimal as possible so that we're not held up. And again, a key benefit here is when we start to break a system out into these components, We don't have to say, well, we need the menu, but we need the menu for the display and we need the menu for this. So we're going to put indexes on these columns and we're going to store it this way because we display it this way. And that'll help us speed up the read of it. They're completely independent, right? So working with the menu in here, we don't have to worry about how we're going to display it. We don't have to make our decisions about what we do and how we do them based upon how it's going to get used in this. This will hold the menu in whatever way it's best for it to display. And because menu is a read-only concept in this, yeah, and they likely would. Yeah. But again, we're not building our decisions out on what a specific system needs. We're building out, we're going to publish this data in the most logical format possible for us to publish it in, and the most representative of us, and you consume it and store it however you care and store what you want. So defining items, how do I best represent this? I'm trying to stay away from actual diagramming, but I think it's time to put some form of structure in there. A category has an ID and a name, say, and an item has an ID, a category ID, a name. So I learned the limitations of the tooling. And can't just insert another one. There you go. What are you on there? Oh. Item. Well, I'm deliberately, I want to put these on so I can talk about them rather than necessarily be having something will help us do more. And price, say, for now. I don't know why that, I don't know what limits that from header size, resizable. What are you stopping me from doing? Yeah. You get the idea. Let's not faff around too much. And I'm not trying to create a UML diagram here. I'm just trying to get an idea. So a menu. Yeah, well, that's why. Okay. Well, we're learning. There we go. Okay. A menu has categories, potentially. There we go. I learned. Drag and drop. So a menu can have categories. Categories can have items. Does an item exist in multiple categories? is partially why I kind of put these IDs on there. So is that, does an item exist in multiple categories? Is the first question. Like, is chicken fingers no matter whether it's on the child's menu or the lunchtime specials menu? I assume another thing here as well would be potentially on there as well. See, a way of doing this would be to be more organic about it, but I think it's better to, for being that there's multiple people looking at it and thinking about it, that it would be better to figure this out as one. Right. Would the price of an item correspond to its category? Would the price of an item correspond to itself? So we can keep it simpler. We don't have to make it overly complicated, but it might be worth just thinking about it from a common sense standpoint. Right. So, that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. Right. Then we end up with linking tables that are menu has categories, can only have one of each category. A category can have menu item categories or menu category items, which has the link to the items and the menu category. Therefore, this becomes 5 tables, and we end up with a better data structure with a little bit more complexity. And I think that's probably better to design out than it is to show it with the nested IDs. Okay. We'll leave price on there because price would go with the linking record if that was the case, right? That's all the difference that would mean. So if we create, no, I just got good at this. If we create menu name ID name for right this second, let's not make it too bad. And then we have menu categories. And then we have menu category items. What do you think? Thoughts, opinions, suggestions, comments? Apart from my terrible diagramming. Where's the top part? The flow. I'm mixing concepts up again. Just ignore me. So there's two steps. Creating a menu is defining out what a menu is, defining the categories of the menu, and defining the items. Remember, a menu is a selection of categories. A menu, as we think about it, actually, there's more information here, isn't there? We'll call it availability for now. But if you remember, a menu has like a time range it might be available, like it's 24/7, or it's 6 or 4 or something like that. And you so you define that they create the menu, you define the categories for the menu, and then you define the items for the category. So we do need items as a concept because you might want to build out a menu from existing items, right? Um, so I was thinking about that, and it doesn't matter what state it's necessarily in. I think that that might cover it. So if it's null, it's never been published. If it's not null, that's when it was last published. It doesn't really matter to the system. If it's in a valid state, it can be published, right? So this is the first flow. So we've got to do this. So previously, what we did is we actually put a text box in, we hit save, and it published the menu. It sent it straight to Kafka. Well, what we're saying now is you're kind of staging it, right? There's a process of setting up the menu, and then you publish it, right? So publishing a menu, we need to validate that it's at least got a category, and that at least one, all the categories that it has have items, at least one item, because you don't want to. What the heck? All that was from Dota closing the issue. Do you think there is a flow where we might unpublish a menu? But what is unpublishing? Um, you know, Unpublishing is it's out there. We have published it. Deleting a menu, saying a menu no longer exists. Sorry, it's time again. Yeah, okay. Sorry, Ancient God. I'm as we've learned, I am very terrible at drawing out my thoughts. Whoa. There we go. Okay. So, what's it going? Oh, unpublishing a menu. Publishing a delete is literally publishing the ID of the thing and a blank message. We can do that with Kafka. So that's an easy inference, right? We could put that into a state of not published, or we could null this out again, meaning it's not published. So we could. What we need to do is question how much value do we get from understanding that we unpublish something, or can we brought it back and no one has it anymore, versus it's just not published. But we can make that decision later on. So that's probably a use case. Yeah, null is not published. When it's set to a date, it's been published. That's the concept there, I would say. And I think we could probably review what unpublished means later on. Is there value in that? Each system could still maintain the menu, right? Each system that consumed it in the first place could still hold it. I think we tinker with it and see. I don't think we need to necessarily know. We could store we might want to store a history. Like we might actually have ultimately a system, and I'm saying when I'm saying this, I'm not saying we actually are going to get to this point, because again, we could spend months on every single component we've even mapped out so far. Each and every component. What we could do is if we put in login and we had who was doing the menu stuff, we could store an audit log of who did what when, right? Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so that's kind of what I want to get to. I want to get to the point where we can define these things. So what my goal would be is to, in the actual story that you'd pick up, let's outline what we expect from that and where the limits of that story are, so that we can know when we need another story, or we need or another card, another issue, or we need where it'll overlap. So let's go back to here. So store the menu in creating the menu management system. I actually think, based upon what we have, that's a little vague, because we don't have the UI for it right now. All right. So what is storing a menu? And oh, by the way, this creating coordinating identifier, if what that is an identifier that can be shared across systems, so that you can get back to yours but without exposing your internal identifiers. Benefit, if you need to re-import data, or if you have these as unique IDs and your database fails or something, and you shift it or whatever, then you don't have to worry about aligning these IDs again. So creating an internal an external identifier of some sort will help you, because that identifier stays with the data, right? It's independent of the incrementing or the storage of keys in your own system, right? It just decouples that. We can add a slug that is unique for the menu that will likely be saved to, I suppose. It might even be a searchable term. If it's unique, yes. But you think another system may use that as a key, so you got to make sure that it's storable in a key style, I would imagine. And that's kind of my opinion on this. This is just from my own experience with this, and I've never seen anybody successfully pull a database structure and shift it to a completely different database system. But if the ID you publish is the ID of your internal data, then you run the risk of, now what happens? And that's a little bit forward thinking, which again I've often railed against. But the reality is, if your published identifier is one you've controlled, then you don't have to align that to how you store it again. It also means that you could change the concepts around inside your own system as long as you publish that identifier. Doesn't matter where you get it from. Yep, no worries, Ancient Coder. So let's define. Let's define what we think we need to get to where we want to be with this. So your goal would be to store the menu. No. Categories and items might also have sort of menu. But categories and items can never be part of. They're never published externally on their own. They might have a slug. We might have some sort of searchable term for them, maybe, but they would never. A category would never get published independent of a menu. And similarly, an item might never get published, and you might not need to represent a category as a unique object externally. So where do we need to be? So right now we have. I'm trying to figure out what we have, what we need. Okay, Delta close that pull request down. That's okay. Yes, they can add it on their. They can control that on their side, but we would never publish. We would never publish a category or never publish an item independent of the menu, as it's foreseen right now. Right, a menu is a selection of these things. These things may exist on different menus, but to the external systems, they're associated with the menu they're a part of. Okay, so we need to get past storing the menu. We need to actually get to the point where we're actually doing something useful. We need to then be able to resume work on that. So I'm struggling to find the best format to represent my thoughts here. Let's bring up Notepad. Okay, so right now all we do is we collect a name and we hit save. So there's several parts we need to do. We need to restructure. Introduce mediator. Create application library. I'm calling it application because that's how I've tended to refer to the handles for the queries and commands right this second. But obviously now we're in the menu world. Create menu command. Store menu with name. Right. If we take what we have now, then that would give us saving a menu, right? Without any concerns of publishing. We keep publishing concerns out of this. That should get us to that point, saving a menu, right? So that's the story. If we we then need get menu command. Yes. Yeah. Do you want me to do that now on stream so that we actually kind of structure this before we go to this part so that you don't have to worry about the restructuring? And that way you've got a jumping off point rather than having to do that as part of a story. Would that feel more comfortable? Yeah. Yeah, I've got a bit of time left. I'm gonna start ending the stream a little earlier than 11, I think. But I've got time right now. He says that might take me right up to 11 and me not notice it, but I think thinking about it, what I'm trying to do here is try and get some sort of structure. It might be better for me to just get the structure in place so we can agree upon it and then we can move forward. And I realize that obviously this stream has been very much a chatty stream with very little coding, but if you've stuck around and you're not used to the stream, please ask any questions. Okay, so let's think about this. Okay, so customer interactions, customer, there's separate systems, menu. Okay, so right now we have the menu website. And what we need... Okay. So I haven't introduced it yet in the other places. So what I do... So let me just review the developers.stream structure so you can agree or disagree on the design. And what we'll do is we'll aim to get the structure in place this stream. We'll aim to get the structure in place this stream so that you can proceed. So with developers.stream, the way it's broken down is the site itself. My computer doesn't cook itself. Core is where the database lives, right? The actual data structure and the database context are in there, and the interface for working with that. The application is the handlers and commands, the queries, commands, etc. And this is the business logic stuff. Tests, we'll get into tests another time. View models is the things that queries pull out and return back to the site. So how does that structure feel? Do you want different names? Do you feel there should be different names? Yeah, but core does not have any dependency on any library, on any application. This has a dependency on core. Core does not have a dependency on it. If we move application context into application, then core has a dependency on application. That's why that's there. When teams complain about not getting emails when things don't work, and then ignore when they get emails that things don't work. Yeah. So if we go back over here, let's create. Okay, and again, so whenever you're creating don't forget this is .NET 3.1, .NET Core 3.1. This is not .NET 5. So I'm going to create a standard library for this part, yes. I'm going to hit next. It will offer to default to pizza as a service. You do not want to do that. You want to make sure you go into the relevant section, right? So this is menu.core, right? So I'm following the same naming structure. I don't know why that's menu hyphen website, but this is a library. So let's do that. Menu.core. And then let's do add new project, new library. Again, menu.application. Where did I do it? I think in some of them I've gone through and names, but yeah, gamer.customer.website. So technically, this should be called gamer.menu.website. Yeah, there we go. So before we actually create any classes in there, gamer.menu.core. Okay, so they're consistent. That probably isn't. Oh no, I did. I was doing pretty good at that. Okay. So in here, commands and queries. I think I call them commands and query. What I've tended to do there is create handlers underneath, because then you can see the commands first before you actually see the things that handle them. It doesn't really matter what order, it just avoids the word handler. Right. So you want me to introduce the I mean, because this is only in this world, right? This is only in this realm. So imagine menu could actually be its own solution that we pull through. Ultimately, nothing says that this can't be broken out as its own solution. And one way of dealing with this is when you're building, you can actually create a solution just for this as well. Right? So that you only work inside the menu. And what that does is it helps you avoid creating interactions where everything's involved, so you can run independently. I think if we do this and do this, new project, create blank solution, we're going to dev projects stream p packets as a service, and we call this pass menu, and then we add. Actually, I could have done that a bit different, couldn't I? There's one way of guaranteeing it will do what I expect. So we're going to projects, stream, pass, pizza as a service, and I created a folder for it. That's why. If I actually put that in there, or I don't do that, I create it again because I just deleted it because I'm a dunce. Blank solution in there, pizza as a service, and I go into menu and I do pass.menu. I don't like this. It's going to create a folder, but that's okay. So let's just shut that down. This is a one-time pain, not an every-time pain. So now, if I open, so you'll have our resets, dev, projects, stream, pass, feature service, menu, that one, then add existing project, add existing project, add existing project. So this actually does keep us from creating cross dependencies. You can't reference the other parts of the system, and that helps us. It helps you build the application independently as well, but you can always, and you probably should always, have this level so you can open the entire thing as well. And this will still open. Nothing changes because the solution files, not project files. So they reference the projects, then they're good. The projects can be updated independently. But this will allow you to keep isolated, testable, and yeah, focused. So this should build. There we go. So how far do you want me to go? Do you want me to go to actually building the context out with the models that we've defined? So that we have something? And we can do the migration? It's up to you how far you want me to go with this. So you could focus on just the commands and stuff. Application will have a reference to core, yes. And that's okay. It really only talks to it through iApplication. So iApplication, that could be in a shared library. But for right now, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, so let's go far enough that we have confidence that we have what we need. So we need to add a menu. GUID or auto incrementing ID. I've kind of preferred doing this recently, but I understand some people still kind of prefer 1, 2, 3, 4 as IDs. Yes. Database entities living core. And again, this is the time to review the naming conventions. Availability. Let's leave that out for this second. We don't need it for what we're about to work on. Let's leave availability out, and let's leave last published out, because that's a concept that we don't need right this second. Right? Let's get us to the point where we could save what we have now. So this is category, and this has public, period, ID, public, string, name, then item, public, period, ID. So definitely live by the, don't rush ahead. Don't try and build what you don't need right this second. String name, public decimal price, public string description. I can see that. I mean, document DBs use GUIDs as indexes. Right? They use them as the primary key. Whether it's an object ID or a GUID or whatever you want to call it, it's still a hashed or a alphanumeric string. But I can see that it might be slower. But again, that's why you don't necessarily, if we want to change that database tool and we've used that ID as our public identifier, right? Then we're tied to that. We've got a problem now because we can't change that. Thank you for the follow. Tmin TM1 NX0. I'm trying to work out if it says something and I'm just being dense. But thank you for the follow. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. More than happy to go through what we're doing. And welcome. So let's have menu categories as a thing. So this is our linking table between our menu and our category. ID. That one definitely doesn't match as much. That's just so we don't have to have compound primary key. Because what would happen is if we do that, when we introduce menu category items, right, we'd end up with menu ID and category ID on this one, and now this one has the compound primary key. Right, so this links to that, yeah. Okay, so now we have our 5 tables represented. Let's create our... Now we need entity framework. Because this is .NET 3.1, I really don't want to risk pushing past that. It will happen at some point. Someone will do that, and we can make it an effort to go through and update at a later point. But we started this on .NET 3.1, .NET Core 3.1, so let's just proceed. Did I just add that onto the... No, I did add it in there. So let's add our context, application context. We have no need to name this anything special because this application context lives in the state of this application. It doesn't live in the global application, right? So we have a DB context, create constructor, DB context, options, AC, options, base, options. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the interface, application context. And this is where we queryable of categories. I'm going to try and keep it alphabetized. Items. Notice these are only gets, these are not sets. One option is to add a global JSON to the folder where the solution lives to help with that. I haven't tried it with .NET 5. Have you tried it yet? Probably wait for it. I haven't had a need to... I haven't had a desire to use it yet. .NET 5. We obviously started this on .NET 3.1, and rather than mess around with updating, I figured I'd just carry on. Models.menu, what namespace are you conflicting on? Gamer menu core, models menu, and other missing references. Menu. Why don't you like that? Nothing to do with the namespace. Gamer.menu. Gotcha. Because I've got the namespace, it's just giving me an issue, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to alias it that way, rather than try and. I don't like the. I dislike x.x inside of these. I prefer this and have a single value there. It's easy to read, in my opinion. Ooh. Almost missed that. No, that is right. That is menu categories. Oh, but it's a menu category. I'm thinking of the collection name and not of the actual item name. An item in it is a menu category item or a menu category. Where was I? Okay. Menu category. Screw up. I didn't rename it. Menu category. Menu categories. Queryable. Menu category item. How do you stop it from fighting itself, by the way, on that one? Or do you not use tooling that does that automatically for you? Or do you just go up and drag it down into the inside of the namespace now? Right, gotcha. Okay. Well, this is the part that most people dislike, but this is what gives us unit testing. Okay, so now let's implement the interface I application context. Implement that. And let's do this. Actually, no, they can all go in there. So what that'll be is public DB set of categories, right, and I'll do that, and then DB set, public DB set, items, get set. Because only when we're referring to it by its, explicit as the application context do we actually need this. I mean, it's fine. Public DB set. Well, it does. I mean, I can do that and that. Right. Control and Alt will do that for you. So this is menus, it's menu categories, it's menu category items. Okay, so if I hold Control and Alt, right, if I'm holding Shift to move, so if I'm Control and Alt, oh, he says, will get me there. That'll do that. So if I'm holding Control and Shift here, I'm navigating through, and then when I want to move down line, no, we're doing. Now we're thinking it. What? Did I just do it out of instinct? Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Oh, there you go. Alt. Holding Alt will do that. Also shift my keyboard. So if I clicked on that, I hold Alt, I can select like that. What is going wrong there? What am I doing? You just saw me do it effortlessly, and now I can't think about how I did it. Now I'm trying to think about. Oh dear. Okay. Anyway, Visual Studio does have multi-column edit, multi-line column edit. It's a combination of Alt and Control. Yeah, block edit. Advanced. Block comment. Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, there is. It's not next occurrence. I didn't move to the next occurrence of it. I just selected it en masse. So I did. Apparently, I'm really good at moving between applications as well. Okay, so this is going to do add entity. This is going to do remove entity, and this is going to do save changes. And that should work for now. It can get more complicated than this, but this is a basic implementation that will work for now. Other things might be if we want to introduce async or we want to deal with it committing sooner or whatever. Okay, so now we have menu core. Do you want me to implement out the first save and remove the code for publishing? So we can talk about where Kafka lives, and then we've got kind of the patterns starting to apply. Okay. So obviously this will break things. Uh, duh, 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 yeah. Yep. Okay. So what we're going to implement is create menu, right? So we're going to tackle create menu, right? Because creating the menu is actually saving the menu to the database. Okay. So that should have gone there by virtue of, yeah. So we'll move that to in progress. And still automation, manage automation, move issues here when whatever. We'll just cover. We're not going to actually branch it and stuff. I'm just going to think about it. So we want the create menu command. I'm not going to jump into the unit test right this second. I think that would slow us down a little bit too much. We can apply some unit tests later and start to talk about the patterns for how we might write them out. But I don't think that would be productive at this point to start building out unit tests. If it was a real application, I'd absolutely write a unit test at this point. But yeah, what I'm kind of thinking through is how to organize this and how to pull this out without losing the pieces necessary. Because if I just rip it out, then I'm gonna leave us hanging somewhere. And obviously, right now this doesn't really matter, right? But we do have this piece. So let's close that down. Let's open the full solution. Pizza as a service. And again, anyone joining, anyone interested in finding out what we're doing, feel free to ask questions. More than happy to answer and take the time. So with the website, we create Kafka consumers. We're not going to be consuming here. And we did create, these are mass transit commands. These are global commands and events. We would end up needing that folder potentially in the past menu one, but right now we don't have a concern for that. Extract interface and move out. Not for those two, you don't need. Mongo, we don't need right now. This we don't. This code I'm not panicked about, right? We can recreate this code. This is not hard. This is not difficult. I'm more thinking about it as a reference if you get to the point where you want to publish and you're like, how do I do that again? Where's the example? And also where to organize Kafka components out to. So we have the serializers. I don't want to lose them, but these are going to be useful across the entire system. So they do belong in a shared, right? If I call this Kafka, it's going to be too generic. You can see they're already in there. They're changing as I change this anyway, so I'm not going to lose anything. What I'm thinking is if I move these out, then we have the serializers. Let's create another project. What did I just do? Yeah. You don't want to do that one. Add new project. Let's create a class library. And again, remembering to select the right folder because you don't want to screw that up. It looks like I have done for commands, by the way. We'll organize that again afterwards. Kafka.shared. Let's move that there. Yes, I want to move it. Refactor, adjust namespaces. Right, that's going to break this because now this doesn't have access to the shared folder. Add existing project, open level shared, Kafka shared. If you actually restructure any of this, then you're in trouble. Like moving folders around and stuff is going to get very messy. We can see that those changes are applying on both sides. I'm not going to leave that in there for right this second. We're going to take this out. We're going to create a notepad. I'll paste it in there for right this second. We don't need any of that. And again, the menu we're creating in here isn't necessarily the menu we're publishing, the menu we're storing in the database, which is why we created separate data entities. So let's go to, we can collapse that for now. I wanted to save the serializers, which is why they're there. So let's do a create menu command. Does anybody have an opinion on whether I put the word command after this? Does anyone care? I'm a big fan of not putting command. Just it being quite clear what it does. Create menu, and it's in the commands folder. I'm genuinely interested in opinions or thoughts on that one. I'm all for not having command. Don't care because the folder structure I normally do, but then I don't put them in a command folder. Okay. Yeah. I mean, by this point, you guys know my preferences on some of these things. It's just, I like to ask. And it does say there's 14 people watching, so even if there's new people in there, it's good to have. Okay, so we're gonna add mediator at this point. I'm not hiding away from mediator. Version 9's fine, I believe. Yeah, it's .NET standard, so we don't have to panic about version compatibility there. And we can remove that so we don't have a conflict there. And create menu. This is the one thing I don't like, the fact that my commands, if I actually separate them out, have to be mediator specific. So I know that you guys were talking about results and stuff before, but I think that's a point of progression to this, like a discussion unto itself as to do we return how do we return, or do we return complete status to the UI? How does that change the behavior of the UI? I think for right now, just keep it clear to what we're doing, and then we can add in that result and stuff and talk about that as a design. I'm okay with it. I don't have an issue with, because we've gone through this before, right? Where we talked about, validation, verification, and returning status to the front end. How's that best handled? So this is a create menu handler. You know, funny considering we just had. Okay, well, the command is there. Why do we stick the word handler on this? Well, because we can't call it create menu. It'll just get confusing. Hey Swarm Collective, Howdy Mediator is a CQRS framework. Probably seems obvious as you have follows commands and queries. Yeah. It's a mediator. It's a library implementing the mediator pattern, and it fits very neatly with that. Async request handler. Use an actual implementation. And what does that do? Yeah. No worries. So yeah, it is. Well, I'm trying to find a specific. Here you go. Good one. Basically, it takes a command and has a handler, a corresponding handler at its core. It does a little bit more than that in this library, but yeah, that's how we're using it. So from the front end, we send the command create menu, and the handler will pick it up. Okay. Okay, so in here now, we're going to need a constructor, and we want our I application. Hold on. I'm jumping too far ahead. I'm doing too much. I need to stop doing that right this second. We put the structure in place. We'll come back in a second. We don't have the database set up. And yeah, okay. So you're, because you need Kafka, that's fine. Kafka shared. Let's jump back to the full version because we've got the library that we use for Kafka at the solution level. If I can click on the right thing. Installed, and then let's put in shared Kafka. Okay, so that's the menus there. I wouldn't normally keep both solutions wide open and which one did I use? Did I use JSON Newtonsoft or did I? Nope, it's not in there. So why doesn't that by default have? It's text.json. Oh, what do I want? Return home? Do you have any idea? I did not have. Oh, I must have used JSON. I must have done because it's not called JSON serializer, is it? No, I didn't. That is the Newtonsoft one, though, right? Yeah, so that is the system text JSON, right? I'm confused. System text JSON, JSON serializer. JSON convert is JSON.net. Using system. Why did I not? .NET standard 2. Like .NET standard 2? Just not like that. Oh, you don't like that? I mean, I can make it .NET Core 3.1 library. I'm not that fussed. It's just... Let's go back there. JSON serializer. Yeah, I mean, that would be the logical... I mean, it's system text.json. So it doesn't matter. That should be independent, right? .NET standard version 2. So it should support it, so it should be fine. Let's add it. Let's see what happens. What's the worst that happens? That's fine. And this will be fine right now because we're not using it. We'll just extract it out. I mean, let's put it this way. If at this point we have a dependency problem with .NET 5, .NET Core, .NET 5 versus .NET Core 3.1 and whatever, we'll just update everything to .NET 5. I'm not panicked about doing that. I just was putting it off until we needed to. Yeah. So we'll kick that can down the road because that's always a good solution. Yeah. Okay. So I was doing that because we needed to build, just to make sure we can build. Everything should build in this project. That's in this solution. That's fine. So right now we need to do in app settings. We need our connection strings, and we need our menu. Let's just call it menus. Data source equals localhost 1434. Initial catalog equals menus. We'll call it menus. User ID equals SA. Password equals that super secret one. That one. That'll do for now. Actually, we might as well add it on. If we have multiple queries running because we have a handler calling a handler. I type a lot of them. Let's see. So now let's go back over here. Let's start opening terminal. Docker compose -f docker compose .infra YAML pup-d. Should put our pieces in place. So we're going to have to, one of the challenges here is going to have to figure out how to make sure that when you check out the system, we can run migrations properly and help a fresh user get started. So what we need to do now is in here, cd menu website, and then we're going to do .NET EF migrations, add initial migration. -- project is / menu.core menu.core.csproj. Microsoft Entity Framework Core .design. Microsoft Entity Framework Core .design. Again, remembering to select the right version. If you're anything like me, you'll at least hit .NET 5 multiple times. Oh, you know what? I can't do that. Stop. Let's go in here and actually add the context first before we actually start doing that. Otherwise, it's not going to know about it. Add DB, add context. I just need to get packages. Microsoft Entity Framework Core. We're going to need a SQL Server. So we know about SQL Server, right? So that's okay. Okay. So then we go back in there. Services to add DB context, application context. Now we can reference our menu. Now we need a configure dot use SQL Server configuration menus. And then services dot add not transient. What's the I don't want transient request. Oh, I gotta remember the name. Yes, thank you. It would have failed because it would have been connection strings : scoped. That's one. Thank you. I was working in structure map today. I was looking at structure map and I'm like, I knew, yeah. So that'll give us our binding to our application context, and then we'll be fine. And then we should be able to build. Now we should be able to run the command to do the migration, because now the system knows about it. Oh, didn't like that. Menu category item. Oh, yeah, because I didn't put another ID on this. So I didn't specify an ID, but also that does allow me to fix something else. So when you do something like this, when you do use GUID IDs, it doesn't like, if memory serves, doesn't like GUIDs. Does it not? Does it not care now? Actually, I've got developer stream, right, which I did the same thing in. Okay, I'll review it. Application context. So okay, here you see. I specify the new ID. In the tables, right? So that is entity. I'll correct that afterwards. That is driving me nuts, by the way. Menu, property. You used to be able to do this all in one line. Why you can't now, I'm not sure. The new ID stuff is not. And the reason I don't have that is because I don't reference the SQL database in here. I only reference the entity framework. So I reference SQL Server in here. You'll catch me doing it once, I promise. I will type the wrong one there. And now has SQL, default SQL value, new ID. What will happen is, if I don't do that, entity, I think we learned this, entity framework will actually insert default GUIDs for me, right? But the table won't have the default on it. So if I try and insert a record manually, it'll break. So as long as you're using entity framework, you're fine. But the database won't have the default value set on it. And if you have any scripts or you want to import data or you want to do anything like that, it'll fail because it won't give you a new ID. I remember us going through this now. Yeah. And let me fix that because that's driving me nuts. No, the migration won't do this, so we need to add this ourselves. So unfortunately, because I created so many tables, They all need it. Category. And again, you used to be able to do this. I don't know if you can do this. P.id.has key. No, you can't chain them as you used to. And again, this is the sort of thing that they can change overnight with a new release. And yeah. But I'm going to do it just to be thorough. We could get away with it without worrying. Yeah. Doing their work for them. I guess I put an ID on every single table. I just have to repeat that time and time again. But yeah. I'm not sure why they broke that chaining potential. But okay. So now go back here. We can build. And when we do this again, we should get a migrations folder. And now we have migrations, our initial migration. Yeah. Default SQL values there now. Yes, I did. Yeah. So the task extension for from result exactly the same as my personalization. Nice. That means you were not the only one writing all that code all the time. Okay, so now let's see if it will update. .NET EF database update. -- project. I don't think I need that. Let's see. Yep. So this looks like it's going to time out. No. So if we go to the SQL Server now. Okay. Oh no, what's the super secret password? Where do I copy it from? Here. Here. Inspect. No such container. What? I beg to differ. Good point. I did copy it in there, didn't I? Already copied it once, yep. I remember that this time. There's menus. There's our tables and our migrations. Okay. So let's go back, close this. Thank you, Junicus. Okay, it's 10:30. I'm going to get this committed. So yeah, if anybody is watching and is interested and has any questions, feel free to ask. I got to remember to keep saying that sort of stuff because I think people get afraid to ask a question, especially when it looks a bit more intimidating. So I like to try and keep it open. Okay, readme. Docker Compose up, start website, loyalty and customer services, navigate to HTTPS, look, register. Yeah, that's going to get changed. So you're going to navigate to How can we automate that as part of it to run migrations when you start up? Maybe that's a challenge for another day. I just want to kind of note open console, navigate to. Well, when we do the Docker Compose stuff, I think being able to run the migrations and stuff will be a helpful thing to do. I just don't think it's part of what I wanted to be working on right this second. But obviously, it would be nice if you want to check this app out and we can say just run this command. It starts up, it initializes the databases, and everything's ready for you to go. That's awesome, right? That's the path we want to go down. Navigate to menu website. Is it just tab in? We'll do tab in for now. I can't remember. Markdown is not my strength. Then run .NET EF database update. Right. Okay, well, we can tinker with that, I think. Maybe that's a stream of tidying up and whatever. Actually, that should work, because that now, with the connection string set the way it is, that should run. So let's see if we can relatively quickly finish this one up. So the handler is going to ctor I application context, right? So application references core, website references core, and website references handles application. Create our context, and then we're going to do context.insert new menu. That's going to be we're going to have to rename that. Or rename space the actual application. I'm going to stick with the consistency for right now, but it's going to drive me mad. So we'll talk about that later on, what that implements. New model menu, name equals request.name. And again, that would have a unit test. And this is not. Okay. None of it's async, so. No, don't mind. Just, yeah, wherever you're using it. This is not just for me, right? So now in the website, we need a mediator. Right, so we install that there. And then I'm going to go to pages, menus. And actually, we need to add mediator to the overall application, don't we? Services.add mediator. Oh, we need dependency injection. Mediator. Okay, add mediator. Type of create menu. Assembly. Okay, and now in menus, we're going to do inject public mediator, and then we're going to do mediator.send new create menu name equals model dot name. So we should, because we're in our own subsection of the application, right? This runs independently. We can set startup projects and we can run startup projects. I've only seen a few solutions take this path. But now if we go to HTTPS localhost 5002, 5002, we should go to the menus and we should say lunch. Now if we go in here, if all things have worked correctly, select start on menus, there's lunch. How does validation work on UI? Have you done something like in Blazor? Yes, did you see any of the developers streams from Saturday and Sunday? Sorry, I just clicked my back doing that stretch then. Validation was a very big component of those streams. Basically, I put fluent validation in the UI, based upon a reference that Copper Beardy provided, and then was able to prevent you from adding a streamer that had already got a registered stream, had a valid email, all those things. So yeah. The code is obviously up in the TBD Friends GitHub as well, so it's relatively quick. But there we go. We've got an actual record in a table, stored in a Docker container. Yeah, we have a menu. So now we've completely demolished publishing, but publishing isn't relevant until we actually get the rest of these things in. So now we need to be able to build the rest. So I'm going to move that to done. Right. And then I'm going to commit what I've got. Am I missing anything, do you think? Do you think that pretty much gets a structure in place, gets a design pattern laid out, and shows saving to database? Probably. So obviously the query is a relatively simple component. So my concern right now is, if Dota wanted to work on something, there's not much that wouldn't conflict with other things. And I've been trying to think throughout doing this, what would be, and Dota's, I keep saying Dota because Dota is the one that's expressed an interest in actually trying to do some stuff on this project with us. So I want to make sure that we're kind of providing that where possible, but I'm not sure what could be picked off directly right this second. Okay, the commands, the list that you added in, yeah. So unpublished, we've talked about unpublished. We probably don't need that for right this second, right? Get items. Depends on how we really develop the UI, right? Get items would return a list of all the items. It could return, we could overload their behavior, or we could get items for category, get items for menu, get items for get all items or whatever. get categories, get menus, get published menus. I'm not sure that I think right now get menus is enough. Get published menus, if we just use the date as being set, then it's implicitly published. That might be something we do, because you might want to only see what is published. You might not actually want to offer menus that are not in a published state. Update category command, update menu command, create item, update item we need as well. So here's what I think we should do. Let me close this one down. Completed work on stream to implement basics of create menu. I close that one down so it's not sat there. That number seems to be jumping around. So let's do this. So what is it you want to take is the challenge. So store the menu when creating in the menu management system. Technically, this is what encompasses what you need to do. Right, this really is the card that is what do you need. Create menu, publish menu. So I would say we don't want to do publish in here. I'd say that we need to be able to store the entire menu in this story. Yeah, so let's just make sure. So create category, create item. We've obviously got create menu. So commands, add features to UI support. So if we do create category, create item, I was looking into that before. What permissions to grant you to be able to do that? Should, because then you could put cards in, and if you identify things that are easy to pick up, we could label them so, and we can start some low hanging fruit stuff as well. And Dota, if you're listening at all, check out the project. Make sure you can build it. Make sure you can run it and tinker with it a little bit, and ask any questions as well. I'm really trying to think of stuff that's applicable. So I get system beep in my earphones, but I don't get sound. There's no cables plugged in. I can't get sound. So how do I get system beep in my earphones? Oh, system beep must feed through. Huh. Anyway, should store items and categories in SQLDB. Should associate items and categories with menu. So this is the sort of stuff where what you might want to do is actually break out the behavior of create and associate into different commands and handlers, because creating an item, we might create an item and then reuse an item. So technically the next time we're not creating the item, we're associating that item with another menu or another category. So breaking them down, it might be you want to consider the design of associate item with category, associate category with menu. I'm a big fan of really readable. So I don't have any issue with long command names. I don't think Mr. Anhorn would have any issue with reading them either. But these are just ideas. So if you use this issue to track anything, then we can kind of evolve this path as we go. Yeah. So just gonna leave that there for this second. Let's go to here, create category. So you can design menu or creation. Yeah, so I'm basically going to leave the UI side to you, and we can review. I mean, I don't mind as long as you have fun with it, and we can talk um, about things. But I think with those there, then you've got the ability to build out the menu. And you know, it's always worth sharing the Discord, etc. Yeah, so I kind of brought that out wrong. So as a menu creator, I want to be able to create categories. So we're going to close this one. We're just going to make it that one story. I am not streaming on Thursday. It's Thanksgiving. I don't know about the weekend either at this point. I don't have karate. But I will be around. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to close this issue out. Number encompasses yeah. So I'm not doing karate this weekend, so I may do a Saturday stream or a Sunday stream. Sunday was kind of fun. Not really good for my stats, but it was it was fun nonetheless. Final Singularity, thank you for the raid. You beat me to it. You know full well that we both end roughly around the same sort of time. So, thank you very much for the raid. How was the stream? Yeah, well, my intention is to try and end before 11 from now on, so that I have some wind down time afterwards. Nice, nice. I need to do something. 192. How would you describe your stream? Thank you for the following. Nana Seiren. Sorry. Yeah, it's almost 11 for me, so it's warm. Stream. We need to see stream building financial portfolio modeling, utilization, Angular. Okay. Well, the reason will become clear. There we go. So let's see if the bot recognizes that. There you go. So now you're in the auto shout out as well. So yeah. So what we've been working on tonight is we have been working on our pizza as a service system. We have been going through some planning, some design, and kind of working on the menu system, breaking out some code and organizing that so that we're ready to go forward, so we can start building out menus and then ultimately publishing them via Kafka so that the rest of the system can consume those menus. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been working on this. This is draw.io and a plugin that another person had written to embed it inside of Visual Studio Code. So you can kind of navigate back and forth in Visual Studio Code. So it's actually the embedded web app put inside. It's pretty good. It's free, so that's awesome. Yeah, so we've been doing this for a few weeks now, going through how we structure code, how we organize the pieces, how we communicate between the systems. And we're kind of getting to the point now where we're going to start being able to work on this. I lost my pizza command. That's what I lost in my fail. Let's do that. Pizza as a service. There we go. Now it should be back. That was a a victim of my idiocy with Docker. Yes, check the box to update to WSL2. Oh, all my images and containers have gone. Oh, so did my database. Yes. If my bot becomes sentient, we're all in trouble. Yeah. With the help of Junicus and Mr. Anhorn, we got that up and running, and now everything's running in WSL2. So, but I lost some commands there. Sorry, Ancient Coder. Yeah. So all the code for this project is available in the GitHub repository as well. And let's see. Does this command work? Yes. And I have actually been trying to be good at uploading the videos to the YouTube channel, my personal YouTube channel. So you can kind of catch up with those. But obviously, you get to watch an entire 3.5 hour stream in YouTube. That's quite a milestone. Yeah. Get those olives off. No olives on pizza. Pineapple, yes. Olives, no. One of the things I do want to talk about, by the way, is this concept. Obviously, we played with Identity Server before. That was not the most successful thing in the world. So my idea here is to basically just continue using the built-in ASP.NET identity system. But maybe next week what we'll do is we'll tackle this on stream. We'll do when a customer is registered, we'll actually register the customer in the website and get them so they can log in. And maybe we'll tackle a bit of that as well. And then that gives Junicus plenty of time to tinker with menus and things like that. And we can move forward with the publishing component based upon progress there. But yeah, if there's any questions, if there's any thoughts or anything, then we can then I'm more than happy to answer. Oh yeah. Like I say, the intention of this project is not to write out the entire system. Is there anything simple you can pick? Um, if you want to practice with things, you're more than welcome to pick up something and tinker with doing something. But I don't know if there's anything necessarily. I mean, there's, and that's been my problem right now. Is I I'm trying to learn how to share this properly. Right. I don't want to gatekeep it, but obviously I don't want to be in a position where I have no idea what's going on, um, or struggle to you know to piece it back together mentally. Um, we don't have many stories written, and that's kind of the disappointing part right now. The menu system is kind of the linchpin, right? So Junica's has put on all these, but realistically, these become this story. Some of these become this story. Some of them become other pieces of the stories. Um, and discussing this more would really be necessary to get beyond this part of the menu system. So the menu system is kind of off limits for right this second. Obviously, we have the customer system. Okay, Final Seniority. Thank you very much again for the raid. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Good night. So obviously, right now we have customers, which just turns around and stores an account in a database. We have the marketing system that does nothing with that. We have the website, which does nothing with the account. If you want, I can put a store. You can work on identity. If you want to take that, that is a part that will not affect anything else. But that's not little. It's not. I mean, I think you know how to do that part, right? So it's not. But I don't. I guess I'm kind of. I want to drive this project not off completing a full project, but people's interest in certain parts and how you might do something, and we can look at those pieces and talk about them in an honest context and say, okay, well, this is. I'm not sure how this works. What do we need to do here? How do we need to do this? I really want to make this about the discussion of what this distributed system means and not really try and create something that is fully functional, but has all these parts that we can kind of latch onto and look at and analyze and learn from. Could we turn a story or maybe stories into a project and add all the issues associated to it, and the whole project is a branch, and the project is finished when the branch is turned into a PR. That's a long living branch. Yeah, that is a real long living branch. But I mean, overall, I want you as the person watching the stream and the person engaged in the project to get what you want from the project, right? And I think that having the ability to just tinker with something and do something is is the biggest potential for this project. It's just I don't know what to suggest that wouldn't derail. The identity stuff is something that I want to do. So obviously that takes the customer the account registered command into the website. On doing that, it should create an account in the identity system, but that would mean doing the setting up the SQL database there and the migration for that. Now that, because that's account registration, I don't think I have any issue with that being in the website. I think we've gone over that before, right? Rather than breaking that out as its own thing, etc., because it's just identity. It's nothing to do with the application context itself. It's just identity within the website, and then being able to do these things. If you can think of other things, add stories. You definitely can add them, Ancient Coder. And I don't know if this is. I don't think this is restricted to um, team. I think it's public anyway. Um, but if you think of anything you want to do, if you think of, oh, you know what would be kind of cool if I could set up X thing or Y thing, add a story. Yeah, so we need to do one thing, don't we? We need to make sure this is pushed. State all changes. Refactor out menus to store menu in database. Remove Kafka. Removed Kafka publish for now. So as to store the menu. So once we get to actually storing menus and being able to publish them, we can look at that part and make sure that then we're publishing Kafka properly. Right now it would be a handler unto itself, right? Publish menu. And the idea being that the flow of the commands is documented in the system and it's easy to follow through. Okay, so main now contains everything we've done on stream this evening. You can check it out. You can create the SQL. You can do the Docker compose. You can do the migration, the database update for the menu system if you want to. But you don't have to run the menu system. Feature 3. What did I do with feature 3? Tell me to do. Oh no. Feature 3 was what we just merged at the beginning of the stream. It was last week's feature that I forgot to merge because I'm bad. But yeah, if you want to take this, feel free. If you don't feel any obligation. If you want to start tinkering around with things and ask questions, and the Discord is always there. I do look at the Discord all the time. You are more than what is issue number. You are more than welcome to pick up this diagram and play with it. He says as he doesn't have this committed, but the version you understand the idea at this point, right? And add issues if you want to add ideas. Let's talk about things, right? I think this is your project, right? It's fun to play with. There's a lot in here. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of confusing parts, but have fun with it. That's the main thing. Okay, so I am going to call it there. Is there anybody you would like to see a raid upon? I'll take over there. Callow's just chatting. How many is playing games? User 335. We raid. I don't have any other developers in my list. I will be back on. Now for my version of it, I need to have a way to get a menu from the POS and turn it into something that could work online. Menu from the POS. Huh. Wow, 2 at once. We are attracting attention. Ooh, D-base. Ancient Coder brings that hammer down fast. Yes. Well, it's funny. I was saying earlier on, I think it was to my friend, my YouTube channel must be getting attention because I got a do you want similar thing, right? Follows or whatever. I'm like, that's the first time. Yay. Like, I've made it. I'm getting spammed. Measure of success when people do things to irritate you, right? So, anyway, I'll be back on Tuesday. We may have a slight new look to the stream on Tuesday. We'll see. Depends on how much time I can spend on the weekend doing what I need to do. But is there anybody? Is there any dev streamers that you guys follow that would like to see rated? Yes. So funky is a very big difference. You will be surprised, but it depends on whether I have the time to piece it together properly. I have completely changed things, but that is as far as I will go. Okay. No dev streamers? Nobody? We're going to go to user 335 then, because he's working on his game. He is awesome. He listens to Eye of the Tiger on loop constantly, if you've not seen him before. Yeah, it's there's Calor's doing just chatting, so I don't want to just drop into Calor. At least user 335 will definitely be coding. So say hello. Yeah. I'll let everyone know in the Discord if I plan to stream at all on the weekend. But if not, I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for the support, the subs. You're awesome. Yeah, I will see you all soon. Have a good one.